So you've landed that all-important interview, but what questions should you ask? I've previously worked as a recruiter and a hiring manager, so I've had my fair share of questions fired at me in the past when interviewing candidates and potential employees. Those that stood out were the ones that had plenty of questions and I felt like they were interviewing me as much as I was interviewing them. So in today's video, I'm going to share 10 questions to ask in your next job interview. Now, a key thing to know is don't wait until the end of the interview to ask your questions. You want the interview to flow and feel more like a conversation. So where you can, ask these questions along the way to avoid waiting for the end where the interviewer may have covered most of the questions you had, or worse, you completely forget what you'd planned to ask. So the first couple of questions are going to give you more insight into the role, and not only that, some insight into the company. Remember, an interview should be a two-way process. It's an opportunity to assess whether the company aligns with your preferences just as much as it is for them to evaluate if you are a suitable fit for their team. So the first question you want to ask is, why is the position open? This will shed some light on whether this is a new position or whether someone has been in the role before. Now note, if there's been 3 people in the role previously and none of them have worked out, it might be a red flag and a reflection on the company or the hiring manager. So feel free to push back and ask why they didn't work out. Now, if they all quit, why did they quit? Or if they were all fired, why were they fired? Do they have unachievable expectations, and are you going to be able to meet these expectations? If it's a completely new role because they're adding to headcount and the department is growing, this is usually a good sign, which brings us to the next question. What is your vision for this role? Now, you want to see why this position has been created and what their long-term vision is for the role. Try to get this answer in early so that you can tailor your answers to future questions to the points they give you when answering this question. Now, you can take this question one step further and ask, what are the top 3 things you would like to see from me in the first 90 days? Now, this will give you a clear understanding of their expectations in the role and whether they are feasible. If the hiring manager doesn't understand the realities of the position, it's a chance for you to push back and get those questions answered. You don't want to take a job with unrealistic expectations, as you will only be setting yourself up to fail, or worse, starting with a red flag employer or potential toxic work environment. Another good question to ask would be, how can I exceed in this role? Now, this invites the hiring manager to tell you exactly what you need to do to excel in this role, and will again allow you to fully understand their expectations and give you the heads up if there's any areas that you could improve your knowledge prior to taking the job. It also emphasises your desire to succeed. Now, something else you want to clarify is there any room for career progression with this company? So ask, what growth opportunities do you see longer term for this role? As a company, do they have a clear career path for their employees? Do they promote internally? You really want to establish this before taking the job. If there's no room for progression and growth, how is that going to align with your ambitions for your career? And if they don't tend to promote internally, this could also be a red flag for a potential toxic workplace. I've done a whole video highlighting the red flags you should look out for when in interview, so check that out after this video. Now, a common question hiring managers love to ask is, what would you say your weaknesses are? But here's our opportunity to flip the script and throw the same question back to them with, what's a weakness your department currently has? And then a follow-up question to this can be, how do you see this role contributing to solve or improve these weaknesses? Now, answers to these questions will give you a good indication of what to say in your roundup of why they should hire you. You can touch upon all of their weaknesses and how you can contribute to improving and supporting them. Now, when you're researching the company prior to your interview, you want to check out who their competition is, as well as understand where the company sits financially. If a competitor has brought out a new product or service, what impact could this be having on them? And if they're a startup or rely on funding, have they got the finances they need? You don't want to take the new job only to hear that you're being laid off a few months later. So ask, ask, what is your strategy to address your biggest competition, or how do you plan to secure your next round of funding? Now, next up, you want to find out more about the person interviewing you. So ask them, how long have they been with the company and what it is they like about working there? Okay, so that's an additional question, but most people love to talk about themselves. So by asking this, they will feel heard as well as giving you a good insight into the company. Now, if there is more than one person interviewing you, ask all of them, so that way you get various different perspectives. Now, finally, to avoid being left wondering when you will hear back, or worse, getting ghosted, ask what the next steps are and when you are likely to hear back. The answer to this will not only give you an indication on how the interview went, but it will also give you a clear deadline, which if you don't hear back by, you can confidently follow up. Good luck with your upcoming interview, and if you do feel like you could do with some one-to-one support with your job search, check out my Career Growth Accelerator program, where I cover everything from optimizing your resume and LinkedIn to giving you a clear job search strategy, as well as interview training and so much more. I'll leave a link in the description below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to hear more valuable insights.